Ever wondered how to create a drop shadow in Photoshop? In today's video, I'm going to show you how to add a drop shadow to text using the Layer Styles drop shadow dialog box. Then we'll apply what we learned about layer styles and add a drop shadow to a subject. Coming up. Hey everybody, this is Charles Cabrera, helping you get started with Photoshop, Lightroom, and photography. If you like short and easy tutorials, please consider subscribing and hit that bell notification so you don't miss anything. So a drop shadow is used to simulate 3D depth in a 2D image. So in this case, that offset shadow here is what actually makes the text appear like it's hovering over the background. So I'm going to show you more examples how a drop shadow can be used to indicate how big a light source is and where it's coming from, also how far away an object is from its background. So to add drop shadows, we're going to do that from the Layer Styles panel. And to get to the Layer Styles panel, all you need to do is double click. And in this case, we're double clicking on a text layer. Double click on the text layer, and this is your Layer Style dialog. If you want to add a new drop shadow, what you do is you come to the FX here and scroll down and click on drop shadow, and now you have a drop shadow dialog box to work with. Make sure that once you add that new drop shadow that you highlight the drop shadow in the left hand side so that you see the panel here with all the adjustments for the drop shadow. If you want to delete a drop shadow, what you can do is highlight the one you want to delete and just click on this trash can right here. So you're deleting that effect. Notice in the layers panel for this text layer, right below the text layer, it says effects and then it says drop shadow. So every time you add an effect to this text layer, it's going to keep on adding the next effect. So you're going to see them all in a row. So the blend modes that they have here for the shadows, typically you're going to be using the multiply or the linear burn. So those are the two that you'll be using, and most of the time it's multiply. You can also change the color of the shadow if you want. By default it comes up as black, but you can click on the color picker, choose a color and say okay. So now you can see that my shadow is red, so that's another effect that you can have. I'm going to change this back to black. And by the way, if you're just starting out with layer style, working with the drop shadow dialog is probably really good for you, because some of the settings are basic, but you're going to get a good feel for working with the other effects that you can use in the layer styles just by working with the drop shadow first. So once you have your shadow visible and you decided what color you want it, you can use the opacity slider to make your shadow visible or invisible. Here I'm taking the opacity all the way down to 0 and bringing it all the way up to 100, but as you see me going back and forth, you can see the visibility of the shadow effect that is changing. Okay, let's talk about angle now. So if I come over here to my text layer and I double click on my effect name, in this case drop shadow, double click on it. We already know how to set the blend mode, usually to multiply. We know how to set our shadow color. We know about the opacity, making it visible. Angle is to help you make that shadow change according to maybe the direction of light. As I'm changing this angle here, you can see that the shadow is moving, so I can simulate the direction of light using the angle. The use global light, that parameter, what it does is this angle here, when you have other effects like bevel and emboss, those are some possibilities over here, but it'll retain that same angle for other effects that you might use with this particular text. So again, to recap, blend mode, you can use linear burn or multiply. Let me go back to multiply, and you can see a difference in the darkness of the shadow down here between multiply and linear burn. You can play with those to see which blend mode gives you a better effect. But so here we go, we have a black shadow. We know how to do that. We know how to change the opacity. We know how to change the angle, and that's for the direction of light. But now distance is actually how far away that shadow is from your object. So as you can see, you can really bring out that shadow using distance. And this is another effect you can use to really enhance your text. So now let's talk about the spread adjustment right here. So we have everything set up here in our drop shadow. We know that we wanted the opacity 100%, black shadow. We have our angle here that we can change for our direction of light. Distance, again, for the distance the shadow is from the actual text. So the spread slider is changing how gradually this fades out. So here it is, how it's fading on the edges. So with this example, it's a little bit different effect from the blend mode of linear burn and multiply. With multiply, you see that it's the shadows kind of grade a little bit, and with linear burn, it's more pronounced. But shadow color's black, opacity, you know, that we can change that and get our visibility, light angle, distance, the amount of space between the shadow and the text. And now down here to size, which actually makes the shadow bigger, but it gets and does some softening. You see, the more I go out, and it softens the shadow. So far with just those settings, we've got a halfway decent drop shadow on this text. So now we come to the contour setting here, and what that does is it allows you to change the fall off of the shadow in a non-linear fashion. So by choosing different curve profiles, you can get the shadow to fade out in different ways. So I'm just randomly clicking through these, and you can see that the shadow is just kind of taking on different effects. So they say that the only time this is really useful is when you're trying to achieve a special glow or abstract effects. So each time I click on a different pattern, you can see that the fall off of the shadow is non-linear or different. This anti-alias checkbox allows you to improve the quality of the shadow fall off, and it's recommended that that is always clicked on. And in this example, I just wanted to show you about the noise slider, and I made the shadow white just so you can see the effect of the noise. So there is 0 noise, there is 100% noise, and it just gives the shadow a gritty appearance. So now that we've added drop shadow to a text, let's add a drop shadow to this model right here. Remember I said that some of the uses for a drop shadow is you can actually show or simulate how far, like in this case, how far the model is from the background or the direction of light. So first I'm going to cut this model out using the Object Select tool. And if you're not familiar with the Object Select tool, I have a video that I'm going to put in the card above. So we're going to select her and have Photoshop make the selection. I'm going to zoom in here and actually get this little area right here. I'm going to hold down the Option and select that area. And I'm going to go into Select and Mask just briefly, just maybe to smooth out the edge a little bit. This does not have to be perfect because we're dealing with a shadow. And I'm going to just output this to a new layer. So there's my selection on a new layer. So now we can use our layer style. Let's create a new drop shadow. It's on multiply blend mode, and let's make a drop shadow here. I'm going to make the angle come onto this other side, increase the opacity to 100, and I'm just pulling it out so that you can see this is our drop shadow. And we might want to soften it up a little bit with the size since it is a shadow, and it really doesn't matter what the placement is right now. I'm just going to say okay. So now we need to separate the drop shadow effect from the cutout that we did. By right click on the drop shadow and say create layer, And so some aspects of the effects cannot be reproduced with layers. That's okay. Say okay. And here it is. The shadow is on its own layer. So now what we can do is change the way that shadow looks by doing a free transform. That is Command T. Now I'll hold the Command key down and click on any of these points and drag down. You can see that I am changing the way the shadow looks if I put it under her feet. And just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to click the commit transform right there. And I'm going to use my opacity on that shadow layer to bring the opacity down. So fairly easily, we have a drop shadow. Makes it look like the light is coming from the left across her, and it also makes it look like the background is closer than it is. So that's a quick way to create a drop shadow using layer styles. So now to the question of the day. Have you ever tried to create a drop shadow? If so, what were your biggest challenges? Let me know in the comments below. If this video was helpful, give a like and don't forget to subscribe. If you want more short tutorials on Photoshop, see the ones above. And remember, it's never too late to learn. See you in the next video.